Before we get started with the actual content here, there are two very important prerequisites that need to be met before we can use the technology that we're about to see today. The first one is that everyone needs to be motoring. So everyone needs to be creating these little virtual models dressed up with information. So all the information has to be included into one place. Without creating these models, obviously we will be unable to use the models to find and then communicate design issues. So it is very important that everyone creates models well and creates quality models that can then be exported accordingly. And the other important issue that we need to address is that everyone needs to be able to speak the same language. In this case, this common language is going to be IFC, which is a specialist file format that has been developed specifically for the construction industry to contain construction data, and we can use these IFC files to then exchange model information for reference only, and anyone can import and export IFC files. Most of the tools on the market already support the IFC format. Others can be made compliant with certain add-ons that are available. IFC is an open format. No one actually owns it. It's controlled by the Building Smart Association, which is an independent industry body. So no one has complete control over how the data is exchanged and how the data is communicated, which is an important issue to mention. So if we're moving on, today I will mainly be talking about Solibri and how Solibri can work with other authoring products. So Solibri itself is not an authoring product. Solibri is a quality assurance product. And on the chart that you can see on your screen right now, that illustrates how the workflow is supposed to work. So the left-hand side of this chart, you see the gray boxes. Those are the individual BIM models that have been created by the individual disciplines. So the architecture and the structural models and HVAC and all the rest come in individually from the appropriate consultants. And then they all get placed into one place, which in our case will be the Solibri model, but this is also called the Federated Building Model. In this Federated Model, you can access all of this information, but you're not supposed to edit it. So the Federated Model is for viewing and accessing information only, not for actually making edits. Once we have this Federated Model, which is essentially a one-to-one virtual representation of what is going to be built on site, we can then use this Federated Building Model to access information from it. So first of all, we can visualize the model, which is basically just the fancy way of saying that we can look at what's going to be built on site with everyone's contributions in it. So even if I'm only the architect of the project, I can still see the structural engineers' work, and I can still see the HVAC engineers' work and how they interact with each other. I can also check this model to verify the integrity of the data in it. Because IFC is, if you like, a second language to all the authoring tools that have been used by the consultants, we need to check that everyone has managed to speak that language correctly. So we need to validate that the data that we've received in the form of an IFC file is actually correct, it has transmitted properly, it contains all the data that is supposed to be in it, and it doesn't contain data that's not supposed to be in it. We can then use this model to coordinate and classify information, what belongs to whom, and how this is being dealt with. We can also perform checking and compliance checks on the model. So on one hand, these checks can be more or less technical related, going back to that integrity of data part of this flowchart. So we can check that the data we received is correct and it's there. But we can also check for more complex issues that are more design related. So for example, we can check for maximum travel distances. It can also be checked for particular rules that are either statutory rules or practice working standards that you want to follow. We can also use this federated building model to control the versions. As you all know, most projects go through several iterations before they actually go on site. So you need to be able to check what has actually changed between two different versions of the same model. This way we can verify that the changes that were supposed to be made were made, and we can also make sure that nothing that wasn't supposed to be changed wasn't changed by accident during the editing process. Then, once we have this verified and subscribably good federated model, we can use that model to access information in it, which is what information takeoff stands for on this flowchart. So we can access the federated building model and fetch all the informations, whether those are quantities or warranty dates or whatever sort of information that requires to be, that can be fairly easily accessed. On top of this whole workflow, the BIM Collaboration Format can slot in, which is what BCF stands for. The BIM Collaboration Format is a format that has been developed specifically for communicating these issues between the disciplines in construction projects. So it's basically a special file that not only contains the issue itself, so what the problem is and the brief description, but it's also aware of who's responsible for the issue, so whether the issue originated and belongs to the architect or whether it belongs to the structural engineer. It also knows what elements are involved in the issue as well. So if there is a problem with a particular duct, the BCF file will know that it's this duct that needs to be fixed, which is a huge advantage, especially on large projects when you might have 100,000 different junctions in the building. It's hard to determine which one actually is the problem, but using BCF, you can simply just zoom to the element. BCF can be used by just about any major authoring tool on the market as well. Some support it out of the box straight away. Some need an add-on to make them work with BCF, but they can all work with BCF. The best part of this is BCF is actually completely free.